I'm so excited to be having this conversation with someone who really doesn't need an introduction, and that sounds like such a cliche, but Robin is someone that so many of us, millions of Americans, wake up to every morning as one of the most iconic figures on morning television, on Good Morning America. And you're someone who was a college basketball star, turned sportscaster, turned America's morning sweetheart, but you're also someone who has become such an inspiration to millions, given the journey that you've taken over the past 2 years and the journey that you recount in your book, Everybody's Got Something. So thank you so much for speaking with us today.
My pleasure.
And again, this book is Extraordinary Journey, and I'm so appreciative of your candor in that book. For those of you who are not familiar with Robin's journey, today's conversation is hearing really her heroic struggle and her fight for life, battling a very rare blood and bone marrow disease. And I want to start off our conversation, and when you open the book, you have a quote from Zora Neale Hurston. You say, "There are years that ask questions and years that answer. For me, 2012 was a year that asked a lot of questions." The date, April 19th, 2012.
First of all, Moira, thank you very much, and the entire Forbes family for doing this. It's wonderful. Loved your family for a long time. April 19th, 2012. What a day that was. Yes, I work at this little morning show called Good Morning America, and it's a privilege to say that every morning. Good morning, America, to wake up America and say, I hope that you have a good day. I hope that we can do something to help you have a good day. Well, we had been number 2 for 852 weeks. 852 weeks. And on April 19th, we became number 1 for the first time in that length of time. And we had worked really hard, and we were so ecstatic. And I kind of thought how I would feel, because I've been working there many years, had the privilege of starting with Diane Sawyer and Charlie Gibson and so many other great ones. And so I thought I would feel a certain way. But later that day, April 19th, the same day that we're number 1, I was told I had 1 to 2 years to live. Can you imagine? You are sipping champagne with your colleagues in the morning, and by mid-afternoon, you're told you might not be here for another year or 2. That is a reminder to me and for everyone. Oh, by the way, I'm still here. So they were wrong. They were wrong. So that worked out really well for me.
Thanks for all of us.
No. But thanks to wonderful doctors, nurses, technicians, the good Lord, the prayers, and my sister's DNA. She was my stem cell recipient, or I was her recipient. But the point being, we have an idea how we're going to feel once we land that big venture, once we start that company, once we get married, once we have children, once. And you realize that the destination is not what it's about, it's the journey. If you don't take the time to enjoy the journey, life is a journey, it's not a destination. There are no mistakes, there's chances we've taken. Lay down your regrets, because all we have is now. That's a lyric of a song that I wrote with India R.E. after I went through breast cancer. Life continues after having these immense struggles. So that date, I had this wonderful picture of that day that our news president, Ben Sherwood, gave us, and we're all like, and it has April 19, 2012. And I look at that picture on my coffee table, and I don't see it the same way as everybody else does, but I love who's in that picture. But I love looking at it, and it is a stark reminder to enjoy the journey.
That was the beginning, though, of a very difficult journey for you. Diagnosis with this incredibly rare disease.
Myelodysplastic syndrome. You didn't want to say that.
I didn't want to say it. I was like,
that's okay. MDS.
Thank you for helping me out there. But it began this very traumatic journey for you over the coming months in ways even beyond that diagnosis. You said in the book that you would think when you get that diagnosis that you might slow down, but you talk about the fact that you went into fighting mode. Give us a little sense of what the next couple of months were like for you, both physically and mentally, when you're given a death sentence potentially.
You can focus on the fight, or you can focus on the fright. I choose to focus on the fight and not the fright. And I'm a firm believer in all that we want to accomplish and all we want to do. It doesn't matter what it is. And for me, it was to stay alive, that you have to change the way you think in order to change the way you feel. And I just approached it as, when I went through breast cancer, in full admission, I had breast cancer in 2007, and the treatment from that led to this new condition. I had said to my family and friends after breast cancer and losing my hair and the chemo and all that, and got through it, and I was like, boy, if this ever comes back or this happens, I'm not going through this again. It is so not worth it. It was just, I've had a really good life. I'll just roll the dice and whatever I have remaining. But when I was diagnosed with this latest condition, and they said this magical word, cure, that a bone marrow transplant was a possible cure, well, I slapped my fist on the desk and I said, I'm in. Let's see what we can do. And I was very, very, very thankful and blessed that my sister, you have wonderful sisters, a perfect match. I have two sisters. One was not a match at all. Everyone thinks that if you have a sibling or a family member that they're going to be an automatic match. That only happens 30% of the time. So that means 70% of the time you have to rely on somebody on the registry to save your life. So it just really taught me many, many life lessons going through that journey.
So you begin this brutal process of preparing for this bone marrow transplant, but there were many other things in your life that were going on, and then I was struck because there are so many pivotal dates that you talk about in your book, and you mentioned how close you were to your sisters and to your mother, these incredibly inspiring and supportive figures for you. Another pivotal date, August 30th, 2012.
Why are you hitting me with that? Why do you keep hitting me with these
You wrote about it.
I know. Oh, my goodness. Again, I was very, very fortunate that my sister was a match. And so the process was she had to have her stem cells harvested, and then they would be inserted in me in a transplant. Well, about the same time in July, my mother suffered a stroke. And we thought she was going to rally, and it looked like she was going to, but unfortunately she didn't. And she started to take a turn, and it was August 30th. It was a couple of days before I was to have my transplant, and my sister is with me here in New York. She has had her stem cells harvested. We're all set to go, and my other sister, Dorothy, calls and says, you got to get home. We don't know how much longer we have with mom. So we rush home to Mississippi, my beloved Mississippi Gulf Coast, and we made it home in time to say our goodbyes. But we didn't know at the time when we were there what was going to happen, and I had decided that as long as my mother was in the state, I was not going to go through with the transplant, because once you do that, you're in isolation, and if something had happened to her, I wouldn't have been able to get home in time. So I was like, I am staying. And as we have these wonderful mothers that are all around us, there's something about you. My mother, it was almost as if she's heard me saying, I'm not going back, and she took her last breath. And it was her way of saying, I'm going to go somewhere where I can be there for you all the time. You don't have to worry about me, and I don't have to worry about you. And it was just the most poignant moment in my life to have been there with her at that time. And again, it was her way of showing me that we're all a little bit stronger than we think we are. And she was so incredible in this last gift that she gave me to help me understand that I could stand, I could go on, I could fight. And I think that is something that we all have to remember, that when we have these immense challenges, and the title of the book is Everybody's Got Something. My something was 2012 and going through the death of my mother and the transplant and all these things. And it doesn't have to be health, it could be various reasons. And my mother was the one who said, everybody's got something. And when you think about that, that's right. So what are we going to do? What are the lessons we're going to learn? What have we been taught that we can get through this and get onto the road to something better?
How did you even be able to grieve amidst this next very brutal phase, both mentally, as I said, as well as physically?
It was because something that I went through was as much mental as it was physical, and I had to put that on hold for a little bit because it was a very grueling process. It was 10 straight days of chemotherapy followed by the transplant, and then isolation and then hoping that, my sister and I didn't get along well when we were kids, so I was worried that her cells were going to be in the body going like, and I'm going like, oh, come on, Sally. But now, the reason I have this, I have her allergies now, which I never had before, but now I have Sally Ann's allergies. I have her sweet tooth. Thank you, Sally. I appreciate that, Sally Ann. Because I have her DNA, I have her blood type and all that. So it just was, you just find a way. I don't know what it is that why you are here at this forum and what it is that you want to get out of hearing all these people speak, and it's wonderful, and I love this kind of atmosphere. It's so empowering. Only you know what that is, but you just find a way, and that's what I did. I was patient and persistent and prayerful throughout.
You talk about this experience that you were warned when you were going through this treatment that you would feel at sometimes like you were dying. Mm-hmm. When was your resilience tested most in that process?
Oh boy, after going through the transplant process and your system is completely depleted, you don't have an immune system. And it was shortly after my mother had passed and I'm in the hospital, and I have to admit, I was like, you know what, this is for the birds. I'm out of here, I'm going. I cannot hang on. My throat felt like I had swallowed a blowtorch. It was just so excruciating. And it was one of the rare times that I was in my room by myself, because I always had a family member that was with me throughout. But I was like, send everybody home, like you all get your rest. And I felt myself slipping away. And all of a sudden I heard my name, Robin. Again and again I heard my name, and I opened my eyes, and it was one of my wonderful nurses, Jenny, who at the time everybody had to wear masks, so I could only see her eyes, and she's like pleading for me to, to hear her and to come back. And to this day, Moira, I know that was my mother's voice. That was not Jenny's voice. That was my mother's voice saying not to come where she is now, but willing me to stay where I was. And it was at that moment, it was the lowest point. At that moment, I said, I am going to fight. I want to be here.
What surprised you most about the journey that you went through about yourself?
Oh, what surprised me the most is that it's a little bit of what I was saying, and that I'm no different than anybody else. I had no idea that I would react the way that I did. When I was first diagnosed with breast cancer, I wasn't going to tell anybody. I was not going to say anything, and it was my dear mother who said, make your mess your message. Make your mess your message, and get the word out about early detection could save lives. And when I went through this, my sister and I have been very active in getting people on the bone marrow registry. But my strength surprised me, that it takes courage for us all to believe the best is yet to come, especially when you got 2 hairs on your head and you are just flat on your back and you're mourning the loss of the most important person in your life. It takes courage for us all to get up and to know that the best is yet to come. And that is what surprised me the most. I didn't know. And I think that most of us don't know that about us, but we should.
You have been also incredibly courageous in going public with this journey. First with your breast cancer, with this disease. In December, you posted on Facebook a piece thanking all those who supported you in your life, including for the first time your partner and Amber. That takes a lot of courage. Why have you decided to be so open and so candid in a way that we've rarely seen with people of your stature?
Well, first of all, thank you for saying that and feeling that way. And there was no game plan, roadmap. I was always because of my mother saying, make your mess your message. So that part of my life, I was always very open and upfront with. And every aspect of my life, my family, friends, colleagues, all knew. And there came a point in December when I was 1 year from 100 days. 100 days post-transplant is very important, because that means you're out of the woods and you're probably going to make it. So on the 1 year anniversary of that, when I got my beloved dog back, they take your dog away from you when you're going through that. I mean, I had this great, I know, I'm like, oh, they took, see, that got you. Everything else didn't get you, but the fact that I took my dog, she was like, they took your dog? Oh, now that's just it. I'm not going through that. Yes, my beloved KJ, 16 years old, a little Jack Russell, but that was the one that was, she could come back home, and it was just like a great day of celebration. And so I was just so full of gratitude, and I had not shared with everyone this wonderful woman who had shared the burden with me and had gone through it with me, and a very private person. She doesn't like the spotlight, and I asked her, may I please, I want people to know what you mean to me and what you have meant to my family in getting me through the most challenging times. And so she agreed, and we did that. And I have to say, you think that there's something scary and liberating about sharing.
What were you scared of?
You're scared because you never know the reaction from people, but then you do get to this wonderful age and place in your life, especially as women, and you're like, really? I really don't care what you're going to say about me on Twitter. I really don't care. You know? No. It's just not going to, no. But you do, you always want to, and I came from a military family, and we're very private, and we're very proud, but I realized, what am I afraid of? And then there's a wonderful thing. I'm glad you asked about that. There's a wonderful thing about fear. It takes the eye of a needle to get through, and it just takes over everything that you're experiencing and your whole worth, or you think. And there's always this perception that people, and you've had many successful people that have been here on this stage, and I guarantee you every one of them were fearful at one time. I was fearful at one time. It's a myth that people are not fearful who are successful and have achieved. We all are, but it's a fact. I realize that I don't want to stay on the sidelines anymore. That if you're gonna be fearful, you're gonna be staying on the sidelines for way too long.
What do you still fear?
You are good. Yeah, man. We need a replacement for Barbara Walters. You're doing pretty, you're pretty good. I have to honestly say, there's not, once you have had not one but two life-threatening illnesses, my mother and father, the most important people in my life, I blow a kiss to them every morning when I walk into the studio before I say good morning to America. I just refuse to be fearful. I choose to be fearless, not fearful.
How has your relationship to death changed?
It's the end of the day, baby. Come on, I've been up since 3:45.
It's okay.
No.
We can get you a drink.
No, you're gonna drive in a drink. Well, I'm sorry, what was that again?
How has your relationship to death changed now?
That is a fair question, because especially when I went through it the first time, and my sister Dorothy remembered distinctly when I said that I wasn't going to fight if it happened again, and that I was, life is good, I've had a great life, and this, that, and the other. I am going to go out kicking and screaming. I have faced fear, I have faced death a couple of times, and I am just somebody that's just determined to, like everyone, to experience as much as I can, given the time that I'm blessed to be here.
What do you think? You said that you, in the moment in that hospital, when you had that lowest point, that it was your mother's voice coming through. Clearly, she's still with you in so many different ways. What do you think she would say right now, looking down at the past 2 years and your journey and your growth? What do you think she would say?
I thought about her. I was so, especially my mom loved the New York Times. And on Mother's Day, there was a far too generous article about me.
Why far too generous?
Well, I mean, it was very kind. It was a very, to put me in the category of some really wonderful people who have been in morning television. And I guess like many people, you don't, you're just living your life, you don't see yourself like that. But I was extremely humbled. But all I could think about, since it was on Mother's Day too, that how great it would have been for my mom to have been here, to have seen that. And she was somebody who went to college on a $100 scholarship, met my father there at Howard University, and went on to be on the State Board of Education in Mississippi and to serve on many boards, and was just and funny and humorous, just such a spiritual person, and you go, girl. That's what she would say. You go, girl. She would be very, very happy, and I'm happy.
Yeah. If I were sitting with you here 2 years ago, what's different about you today, having gone through this journey and having already gone through a life-threatening illness?
Who goes through whatever challenge it is that we're facing? Who wants to go through it and be the same? I look at it as an assignment of some sort, a heavenly assignment, and I know that the core of me is the same. My values are the same, faith, family, and friends. But I don't want to be completely the same from going through that. And what's different about me now is that I'm here. And I mean, like here, I would not normally go and be anywhere but at work. That's all that I was totally consumed with work and getting the next big get in that. And what's different about me is I'm experiencing life, and we'd have lunch and we would do things, and I'm just really grateful that I'm more aware of just those wonderful opportunities that we all have and want to share in that.
You have had such an extraordinary voice and an influence in American culture, inspiring so many. When you think about the legacy that you want to leave, what do you hope that people will remember? What do you hope that people will say?
When I think of legacy, and it's funny that you should just mention that because I was running a little late. You know, the great Barbara Walters, tomorrow is her last day. And this afternoon we were across town taping her final show that will air tomorrow. And Hillary Clinton was there, Oprah Winfrey was there, Diane Sawyer, Katie Couric. It was the who's who. And we surprised Barbara by walking out because she said, and this is getting to your legacy part, she was asked about her legacy, and she said that she would love it to be that she has helped other women in this industry. And so that's why we came out en masse, and it is great. And I already got a picture on my phone that I could share with you. It was so incredible to be around all these people. My legacy, I would hope would be about hope. I really, really appreciate that people feel so comfortable in coming up to me and sharing their story with me and things that they have gone through. And I just want people to feel like I do, that we have infinite possibilities. And as much as we're all going through, I guarantee you this, if we all had a big bowl in the middle of this room and you threw your problems in with everybody else's, you'd take yours back. You would look at everybody else and go, you're going, ooh, I didn't know you were going through that. I think I'll just, deal with what I got, But that's what I want. I want people just to know that there are infinite possibilities, and I'm so grateful to be living the life that I am.
Well, we are so grateful that you are living it with all of us, and so appreciative of the insights that you've shared, an incredible journey and so inspiring, and we're grateful to that. So much of this is about how we take the narratives of others and learn from them in a meaningful way, and clearly that's the case. And I also want to thank Robin because her book is truly extraordinary, and you all will be receiving a copy today. Your hand must be tired because you signed them all. So thank you for that. You are paying it forward in extraordinary ways, and I don't doubt that your legacy will be far greater than even the one that you just
That's
outlined.
very kind of you.
Thank you so much,
Thank
Robin.
you. Thank you, Moira.